this is Shweta from Dharamshala Animal Rescue.
Hi everyone, this is Amy with Primates Incorporated and ReelTime Animal Rescue.
Hello everyone, this is Becky at Blue for the Horse-Linkshire Misfit Mustangs.
ReelTime Animal Rescue with Julie McLaughlin of Indiana Skunk Rescue.
Yep, get her. You got her? Judy, God bless you. Oh my God.
This is a big brown bat who is really enjoying his mealworms.
They actually just had their breakfast.
Hello and welcome. I'm Krista Embry, founder of ReelTime Animal Rescue and Compassion Education Connect and Inspire. What you're about to see today is happening right now in the real world, and you're going to meet people who are helping animals and protecting our planet. When you learn with compassion, you don't just gain knowledge, you create change. So today isn't just about watching, it's about you and the difference you can make in our world. Welcome to Compassion Education Connect and Inspire. We're so glad you're here.
Well, I will very much repeat what Krista just said. We're so glad that you're here. Now, I believe, I could be wrong, but I think most of you know what the topic of this class is today. Go ahead and give me a thumbs up either on your hands or virtually if you want to send me an emoji if you know what this class is already about, or a thumbs down if you don't know what this class is about. So given what I see on the screen and the emojis floating on my screen, I think you all know what this class is about. Okay, so no surprise there. It is about a particular kind of bird, and we're going to have a special guest presenter who's not myself joining us for this call. Give me just a second. Somebody's trying to join the class. Let me just let them in. Okay, I think they might be in. Okay, welcome if you just joined us. So you all know that we're going to be talking about owls today. But before we get started with what I think you really, really, really want to see, I'm going to go ahead and take you to my classroom notes. I'm going to show you a few slides, so bear with me. I'm going to switch my screen. I'm going to share my screen. And as usual, if you've joined us in the past, can you please give me a shout out and let me know if you can see, let's see, sorry, that is not it. Let me try one more time. If you can see some slides that are about to show up on screen, just give me a second. Okay, almost there. Well, it would help if I've opened up my slideshow, which I have. There we go. And then it is not showing. Sorry about this, folks. Give me just a second. I'm going to restart my slides. Thank you all for being very patient. We're almost there. Okay, it is opening up now. And okay, so what I need you to do, I need somebody to unmute themselves and tell me if you see a blurry forest screen.
Yes.
Excellent. So you see the blurry forest. So that gives me,
Yes.
You should go ahead and get, I see lots of thumbs up. So I know you all see the blurry forest. Okay, well,
Definitely.
this is a class on owls. And specifically, we're going to be talking about owl biology. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Mr. O. My full name is Mr. Ofston, but I know that Ofston is difficult to say, so you're very welcome to simply refer to me as Mr. O. So this is going to be owl biology with Mr. O. And so this is all about owls, but before we focus on owls, I would like us to consider what group of birds that owls belong to. Give me a thumbs up or a smiley face if you have heard of the term birds of prey before. Okay, so I'm seeing celebratory trumpets. That's amazing. Wow, some of us have really heard about birds of prey before. Well, birds of prey is a collective name for a group of birds. So if you look at the screen, here's just a few examples. They include not just the owls, they include eagles, they include vultures, they include falcons, they include some things you know about, some birds you've never heard of before, but collectively they're referred to as birds of prey. And so we're just going to go ahead and quickly define what are birds of prey. What makes the birds we just saw on that screen, including owls, what makes them birds of prey? Well, it's actually very simple. There are 3 features. The first of which is birds of prey have sharp hooked beaks. And so here's an example of a bird, an eagle, that has a sharp hooked beak. So if everyone can take their fingers and make a sharp hooked beak, this is very important for how birds of prey live and how they function, with the fact that they have a sharp hooked beak. And secondly, they also have sharp claws called talons. So here's an example of another bird of prey that has very sharp claws, which we call talons. So everyone can take their fingers and make their sharp claws. And these 2 features, both of which are sharp, their beaks and their feet, are very important, because the third feature of what makes a bird of prey is the fact that their diet revolves entirely around meat. And because birds, including all the birds of prey, do not have teeth, it is very important that they have their sharp hooked beak, their sharp claws, so that they can grab their food, they can tear their food, they can squeeze their food. So their beaks and their feet are very specially equipped in order for birds of prey to be very special and defined from all the other birds. Oh, and here's an example of a bird of prey that has caught a fish, and it used its talons in order to catch that fish and to hold on to its fish. And it also used its very sharp hooked beak in order to take that fish and bite and get it into bite-sized pieces. Okay, so that is the definition of what makes a bird of prey a bird of prey. Now, what we are going to do is look at not all the different kinds of birds of prey. We're going to look at one very specific bird of prey. And before we do this, if you've joined my classes before, you know that I cannot resist introducing very large words. I love to teach very, very big words that you've never used before for the most part. And so the word of the day for this is the word morphology. Give me a thumbs up if you've heard the word morphology, and give me a thumbs down if you've never heard the word morphology. Ooh, somebody has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, more than I expected. Fantastic. So about maybe 50-50 have heard the word morphology, and some of you have never heard the word morphology. Well, the word morphology is, in biology, the study of form in living organisms. So it just means that we study what something looks like, the way it's shaped, the colors, the length of something, the height of something. That is all in the study of morphology. So the reason why I'm talking about this big word morphology is because today we are going to look in great detail at the morphology of an owl. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to first of all stop sharing my screen. That's enough of our classroom lecture for today. I'm going to change my camera. I'm going to pin my camera to the screen so everyone can see me at the top. I'm going to pin this tile for y'all to see me at the top. Okay, so the way we're going to study owl morphology is with a real live owl. So some of you have already met Aluco, my owl. He's my Tawny Owl. But we are, oh, I saw a shocked face. Yes, there's a shocked face. Yes, we're actually going to bring out a real live owl. So I'm going to go fetch him in a few seconds. Now, he's a real live owl, which means we're going to look at real live features. He's also very alive and he moves. So I don't necessarily know that he's going to stay right here with us the whole time. He is fully flighted. Right now, he's actually not in his cage. He's actually flying around the room that I'm in. So I'm going to go ahead and go catch him real quick. But just for your awareness, this class is going to go at the pace of Aluco. Whatever Aluco is doing is what we're going to be doing. So we're going to try to look from head to toe at his particular morphology. That is what he looks like, his form, and all the things that make owls very, very unique and special birds. And to do that, I'm going to put on my glove, and I'll let you all guess why I'm putting a glove on. But I'm going to put my glove on, and wish me luck. I hope to have an owl in hand in about, let's say, 20 seconds. Give me about 20 seconds to go see if I can catch the owl who's flying around in my house. Okay, how'd I do? Okay, so here we go. This is Aluco, our real live tawny owl. Now you'll notice right away, if we're looking at his morphology, that he is a very fluffy owl. He is not covered only with sleek feathers, he is also covered with baby fluff. Because he is not a full-grown owl, he is approximately 6.5 weeks old at the moment. We've had him for about 4.5 weeks. We got him when he was roughly 2 weeks old. And so if you've been following along, if you joined some of the classes earlier, you know that Aluco has grown a tremendous amount. When I got him, sorry, just 1 second. I think I've got somebody who is trying to get into the class. So give me a second to let them in. I think they're in. So yeah, so he's grown a tremendous amount and he still has a little bit more growing to do, but we're going to start with Aluco and start from his head, and we're going to go examine all the way down to his feet. Now, once again, it's going to be based on what he does. He is fully flighted, and sometimes during the next, let's say 30 minutes or so, he may go flying off. We will all laugh and react, and then I'll go fetch him and bring him back if he wants to come back. Okay, but what I'm going to start off by doing is I'm going to see if I can get him to step onto his perch, which he just did. There we go. Well done, buddy. I've been training him to approach the glove in a specific way where I basically will put my gloved hand right behind him, and his first instinct is to step on it. So he's very trained to do that. And then secondly, we've been training him how to step backward, where I just lower him and I just push him back a tiny bit, and then he takes a step backward, and now he's not on my glove, and we can start taking a look at him. Okay, so first of all, we're going to look at the fact that he is very fluffy. We're going to admire his fluffiness. But the thing about his fluffiness is even when he's full grown and he's not quite as fluffy and he's more covered with sleek feathers, his head is really, really large. Owls have really, really big heads. If you compare the proportion or the ratio of the head of an owl to another bird, owls have one of the biggest overall heads of all the birds. So for example, I'll just pull off a model of a duck. Here's just a model of a duck. This is a blue-winged teal. And if you look at it, proportionately, the body of this duck is, it's approximately the size of his body, but the head is nowhere near as big as Aluco's head. And that's because owls have proportionately very, very large heads. Now, the question is, why are their heads so big? Well, there's a lot of reasons for their head being so large. One is it's hard to see it because of all the fluffiness around his head, but owls actually have really long necks. We don't think ever of owls as having a long neck, but their neck, if you were to take away all these feathers and just see where his body is versus where his head is, it's actually connected by a fairly long neck. And we'll talk more about their neck in the future, but basically long neck, which means that he has more length going up, which means a bigger head area. But another major reason why his head is so big is because inside of his head, his eyeballs are absolutely huge. So on the outside, you can see how big his eyes are. And if you look at him, if you look at his face and compare Aluco to my face, now I'm a little bit farther back, but do you see how his eyeballs are almost approximately the same as mine? Mine are a little bit larger. I'm an adult male. But if you look and compare our eyeballs, they're actually relatively similar in size because most of the head of an owl is covered by eyeball, is covered in eyeball on the inside. So what I've done is I have on my desk, I have a few objects. I have 2 grapefruits. Okay, I've got 2 goose eggs, and I've got 2 small apples. What I'm going to do is I'm going to have you all imagine that I am an owl with the proportions of an owl. And if my eyeballs on the inside of my head were as big as Aluco's, would they be as big as small apples, as big as goose eggs, or as big as grapefruits if I had the same proportions as an owl? So if my head was the shape of an owl and the size of an owl, how big would they be? So go ahead and give me a thumbs up if you think that my owl eyes would be as big as small apples? Give me a thumbs up if you think it's going to be as large as small apples. Oh, I got thumbs down. Some of you were the questioning techniques. Okay. And while you are all thinking about the next one, somebody's trying to join the class. Give me just a second. Okay, there we go. I believe they're in. Okay. So no one was fooled by apples, but do you think that my eyes would proportionately be as big as goose eggs? Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down if you think proportionately. Now look at how much space these two eggs are taking. Okay, I have all thumbs down. Okay, I think the class has spoken. So then I guess give me a thumbs up if you think that proportionately my eyes would be as big as grapefruits if I had the proportions of an owl. And so if you guessed grapefruit, you would be correct. Proportionately, my eyeballs would be the size of grapefruits if I had the proportions of an owl, which is absolutely staggering. Actually, as a human, my eyes are closer in size to a little bit smaller than this apple. They're actually a little bit smaller than this apple, but proportionally an owl's eyeballs are absolutely massive. And so this is very important because that means that in his eyeballs right there, he has amazing vision. And it's interesting. I think most of us already knew that owls have really, really good vision, but I don't think we all know all the details of why they have good vision and where they actually have some limitations with their vision. So one of the limitations they have is they're actually not particularly good at seeing something that's super, super close to their face. And we'll talk more about how they kind of compensate, but they're not really good with what's called short vision. They're not very good at seeing something that's very close to their face. And so their huge eyeballs are really equipped for seeing far distances. They're also not able to roll around in those eyeball sockets because owls actually don't have eyeballs. The shape of their owl eyes is not actually a sphere. It's not actually a round circle. It's actually going to be more like a tube, more like this shape. This is more of the shape of an owl eye. You can't even call it a ball anymore because it's actually more of a tube shape because their eyeballs are so massive that they needed to be differently shaped so that there's still room in their head for their brain to grow over it. And so they don't actually have eyeballs as much as eye tubes, which is something very, very different from us. But because they're not able to be shaped in a circle and they can't rotate on each other, they actually can't rotate and move their eyeballs from side to side. And so in order for them to see something over here, they can't just look out of the side of their eyes and move their eyeballs. They actually have to rotate their head in order to see something. So that's how they actually compensate for having eye tubes, is they need to turn their head. And going back to their neck that we talked about, that's quite long. Their neck has 14 bones in it, which is quite a lot compared to us. We have 7 neck bones. And so the 7 neck bones that go from here to approximately here allow us to rotate a certain distance, but an owl has 14 neck bones. So not only is it longer, but it gives them more flexibility to turn. So you can see he's doing it right now. He's turning his head, his shoulder, without moving his shoulders. And so an owl is able to see approximately 3/4 of the way around them without moving their shoulders. They can simply rotate their neck and then see a lot further around them. But that is actually because they can't rotate their ginormous eyes inside of their sockets. And so in order to compensate, they move their necks in its entirety. Isn't that right, buddy? Okay, so that's, I believe, enough about eyeballs. But what I wanted to do, and this is where it's going to get a tiny bit tricky for how Aluco is going to cooperate. I wanted to talk about that fact that they don't actually have super good vision right in front of their face. Their eyes are huge, but they don't have a good way to focus right in front of their face. So what I'm going to do, bear with me, is I'm going to bring out our mobile camera right here, our video, and I'm going to switch screens. Give me a second. I'm going to switch to this camera device. And what I'm going to attempt to do, but this depends on Aluco's cooperation. He's been doing a fantastic job at the moment. What I need him to do is stand still while we take a look up here. And I'm going to attempt to focus. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I guess my camera, oh, there we go. Okay, we're focusing really well. Okay, now if you look on the outs, I'm not going to point my finger because he might move his head, but if you look at his beak, at his mouth. Oh, you just moved, buddy. Okay. We had a great view originally, but if you saw his beak, did you see that there were some like whisker-like things coming in front of his beak? I'm going to try to do it again. So be looking out for some whisker-like feature. Okay, you can see it right there. Oops. Okay, can you see those whisker-like things? Okay, give me a thumbs up. Oh, Aluco, you are a great mover. You're bobbing your head. Okay, can you all see did you all see his lovely whiskers? Okay, well, those are not whiskers like a cat has. They are very much feathers, like all birds have. Let's see if we can focus Aluco. Let's see. Those are feathers that are referred to as, okay, we're not focusing. They're referred to as bristles. Okay, let me see if I can focus my own finger. Okay, I think it wants to focus on the toys in the back. Okay. Here you go, buddy. Open. You have to stay still. Okay. Like I said, this is going to be the tricky part of our class. Okay. We are going to switch cameras. We're going to abandon ship on that one. We're just going to go back to my regular camera. And what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to bring out my trusty glove. And I'm going to encourage him to stand right on it. I'll bring him to you. We'll try this. There we go. Okay. So take a look at his beak, and there we go. We can see those feathers that are shaped like whiskers. And those feathers called bristles are, at the ends of them, they have thousands and thousands of nerve endings that are able to feel much more sensitively than all the rest of their body. And so they actually act like a whisker, where when they feel something right there, when they feel something right there, they sense that something's there. They don't even have to see it anymore. They can sense that it's there. And this is quite important. Oh, thank you for flapping your wings. Thank you. Oh, there we go. Okay. I told you he was going to fly off periodically. I'll go get him in just a second. But basically, those bristles outside of his mouth, they are actually very, very necessary for when an owl is as young as Aluco and younger, because when his parents bring him food, remember, owls are nocturnal for the most part. When they are fed their food, they're often in the night, maybe in a dark tree cavity in a hole, and they can't see much anyway. So when their parents bring them food and it gets close to those bristles, then they're actually able to feel that there's food in front of him. So when I feed Aluco now, he still doesn't really see if I put food right in front of him. I have to still bring it closer to his bristles so he can feel it, and then he can know, oh, food, I need to take it in. Okay, so give me a second. We need to have our owl on hand for our study of morphology. Okay. All righty. I don't know if you heard. Did you all hear that sound he made? That sound he made is his slightly, I don't really want to do what you're doing with me. So he made this little chittering sound. So if we hear it again, that means he's probably thinking, oh, I want to go that way. And he may go flying off. But for now, we've got Aluco with us. Think, oh, there he goes. Yes, he's going to be very flighted. Okay. So I'm going to go try to get him one more time before I just talk about him, and then I'll go get him back and forth, back and forth. Okay, one more time. Okay, never fear. Mr. O has many plans, B, C, D, E, and F. Oh, there he goes. Okay, so we're gonna go with plan probably G at this point. Okay, so I'll go fetch him in a little bit. He doesn't want to be here right now. So we're gonna jump ahead with our morphology without even looking at him. And I would like to talk about what owls eat. So you probably already know, because I told you, birds of prey are carnivores. They eat meat. That's why they have their sharp hooked beak and their claws and all that. But when they eat meat, they have to decide how are they going to get the meat, the food that they've caught, into their mouth. So some birds will only eat small things that they can swallow easily. Some birds of prey will use their hooked beak to tear their meat into small pieces. Some will use their claws to grip and then use their beak at the same time to pull off small chunks of meat. But Aluco, as a very typical owl, doesn't do that. His technique is to swallow his food whole. He doesn't rip very much or at all. He swallows his food whole. Okay, so when he swallows his food, did you all see his beak? It was sharp and hooked, but it looked pretty small, I would say. I think his beak looked quite small. I'll go get him in a bit to go examine his beak size. But actually, when they open up their mouth, owls like Aluco have this amazing spread And it looks like looking down a frog's mouth. It's so large, and they can swallow a very large portion of meat. So when I feed him, he swallows his food whole. He doesn't rip it up. He swallows it whole. And then when it goes down their throat, it goes down further. Now, you know that most birds have something called a crop, which is like an extension of their throat. That's like a pouch that they use for storing their food before they want it to go to their stomach. Owls don't have a crop. They don't have any way to store their food. So like if you've ever seen a pigeon who's eating like in a city park or on the city streets maybe, if you see them, they're always eating. They're always pecking food, pecking food, pecking food. And their strategy is to eat as much food as possible, put it into their crop, and then fly away and just sit very still and let their food digest. Owls can't do that. They have to send it straight to their stomach, but their stomach is in two parts. They have their first part, which is, if we zoom in, it's about the shape of an egg, a long egg that connects into the main part of their stomach, which is shaped more like a circle. And so this first part is called a proventriculus, another big word. And what that part does is it has a lot of stomach acids that digest the food and breaks it down before they send it into the second part of the stomach, which is called the gizzard. Now, the gizzard is a part that acts very much like our stomach, except for the fact that if you remember, owls don't have teeth, birds don't have teeth. The gizzard basically is the part that kind of acts like teeth, because what a lot of birds do is they swallow rocks and little stone or sand bits, and they keep it in the gizzard. And when they're rotating their gizzard around, it kind of acts like teeth, grinding something up. And so when they do that, it allows the food then to go into the rest of their body in order for them to absorb all the nutrients that they need. Okay, that's what most birds do, but owls do something that you might already know about. What an owl does is they put it in the food into their proventriculus. They try to break it down with the stomach acids, and then it goes into the gizzard, and they crush up as much as possible before they send it into their intestinal tract. But the parts they don't want to eat and digest, they're able to squeeze it in the gizzard. They squeeze it in this grapefruit-like thing, and then they send it back out their proventriculus, up their throat, and then they cough it out as pellets. And so because Aluco is not here, and I was planning for this to happen, I have brought with me some of Aluco's pellets. Okay, so what I've got here is a whole assortment of owl pellets, fresh from Aluco in the last 3 or 4 days. I've been saving them for a time such as this. And what I'm going to do is open up some pellets. Would anyone like me to see what with me any owl pellets being opened up? Okay, I've got some thumbs up. If for any reason what I am doing isn't your cup of tea and is a little bit gross to you, you don't have to look, but it is very interesting to observe these things and observe things that are quite different from the way we operate. Our stomach does not cough up pellets. If anything comes out of our mouth, that is not a good thing. We would be classified as sick. When owls do it, it is part of their digestion. So what I'm going to do is, because it's so much easier to work with a non-moving object, I am going to switch my camera and I'm going to observe with you this motionless plate. Okay, now we have a lovely shadow. So let's do it at a little bit of an angle. Okay, can everyone see the motionless plate? Okay, fantastic. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one with some tweezers and put it here. Let's see if we can focus in on this one. Okay, is that nice and focused for you all? Can you all see that well enough? Okay, so we're just going to take a look at it. So it's very squeezed together. And so if you look at it, it's not hard like an eggshell, but it's not soft. It's just right there in between. I'm trying to think of what the texture is like. I don't want to say anything too gross, but I really want to say that it's like American stuffing when you have it for Thanksgiving. That's exactly the color and texture of this. I always can think that American stuffing looks like owl pellets or vice versa. Okay, but that was not why we're here. We're here to open it up and see what's going on the inside. So I've got my scalpel, and I'm just going to cut right through the middle of it to watch if you see any different shapes coming out. And right away, I'm going to remove this piece right here. Right away, I see a bone right here. The second bone right here. Does everyone see this right here? Right here. Let me point to it. I've got a little bit of a bone fragment. Right here, I've got quite a long bone. So from the food that I feed it, I would guess that because it's quite long, this is probably his leg bone. This would be a femur of what I fed it. I'm going to pull this apart a little bit as well because I see right here another bone. So this looks like another very long leg bone. So we can see that right there. Okay, so lots of leg bones. But also, you might be observing, there's all this stuffing colored stuff right here, this yellowish stuff. And this all right here, I don't know if you can see it so easily, but it's almost stringy. It's a little bit fluffy because this is actually the fluff of what he eats. Because his main diet is chicks. It's baby chickens. That he's a meat eater, so he has to eat meat. And so right here, he doesn't have a very good ability to digest chicken fluff or feathers or fur or bones. He can't digest these things, so they compact them in their gizzard, and then they spit them back out. So here's another leg bone right here. And right here, right here, we have a rib bone. This is a rib bone right here. Do you see that slender one I'm pointing to right there? Okay, so yeah, so here we go. This is one owl pellet. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shove all of this aside. So we saw a lot of fluff, a few recognizable bones, but over here, I actually saw another one. I have another owl pellet I'm going to show you. I'm just going to figure out which one it was. That on the outside, it had something that looked a little bit different. I wasn't even sure what it was. It's right here. Okay, everyone see that right there? There's just something, I don't even know what it is. It's right here. It's that kind of grayish thing. All the rest looks like the same color as the previous one, mostly chicken fluff. But this one, it just has something a little bit different going on. So I'm just going to cut it open and see if we can get to that thing that looks just a little bit different. Okay, it's right here. Okay, and I actually think I know what this is. This is interesting because this is a feather right there. That is part of a feather. I can see the central vein of the feather, and I can see some of the grayish fluff. And I actually see a little bit more right here. There's a little bit more right here. Oops, not coming off so easily. There we go. You can see that a little bit right there I'm pointing to. But I don't feed Aluco anything that has feathers on it. So I actually think that at some point he accidentally ingested one of his own feathers because he sheds feathers. He sheds some of his fluff. I think he ingested his own feather, or a feather just floated into his cage. I have lots of other animals. I have ducks all around him. And I think he ingested the feather, but his body knows there's not very much nutritional value in the feather. And so he coughed it back up in the pellet. Let's just open this one up a little further, see if we've got anything else going on. This one actually doesn't have very much bone. I'm looking for a definite bone. I'm not seeing one. This one was mainly revolved around that one feather. Okay. Alrighty, so that's what we've got. Does anyone want to see one more owl pellet and see if we see anything different? Okay, got some thumbs up. Oh, lots of thumbs up. Oh, we got hearts. Yeah. Wow, hearts and sparkle. That's great. Okay, wow, this is very popular. Okay, let me go ahead and get one that I'm just going to choose it because it's a slightly different color from the other ones. You can see it's much lighter. And you know, what I'm doing right now is something that biologists would spend a lot of time doing. And actually, when you read a book, a scientific book, a biology book, an animal book, and you look at the portion that describes the diet of an animal, especially with a bird like this, most of the way we know what their diet is actually based on assessing what their pellets are, what's in their pellets, and we can identify what they most commonly, eat. And so this one, I'm just going to cut through. It just has a slightly different outer shell. I don't know if it's just because it had a little bit less moisture in it. I don't know what the reason is. Oh, right here we have a fairly distinct large bone. There, right there. Actually, this one I can see a little bit better. You can see the knob right here. Apparently, Aluco is not really good at digesting the leg bones. The leg bones must be just too large for him to digest. And so there it is right there. I can see the end right here of his femur. That is the largest leg bone that he has, the largest leg bone you have as well. Here's a smaller bone. It's in fragments. I can't quite see what it is. It might be a wing bone or an arm bone. Let's see. This one had a lot. Oh, here's a big bone right here coming out. Okay, here we go. Once again, a very large bone. As soon as I see a large bone, if it's not like the skull bone, I definitely know that this is in the leg region because it's that large. I think that's what it is. So I don't have any clear reason to think that the outside fluff was any different from this fluff, but it was a little bit lighter. So it's just something interesting to observe. And without having a microscope or any lab equipment, I would just say that it was just mainly chicken fluff that was just a little bit lighter in color. Okay, so I think this is a good stopping point for pellets. I think we've seen quite enough pellets. Let me go ahead and change my camera. And before I go back and fetch Aluco, who's doing all sorts of mischievous things over there, does anyone have any questions they would like to ask at this point before we get back into Aluco's ecology, if he will sit still long enough? Okay, I think we have a question coming from Italy. Would you like to unmute yourself and ask your question?
Why was the owl not sleeping? Because it's the day.
Well, that's an excellent question. Okay, so I don't know if you all heard that, but why was Aluco not sleeping? Because it is very much the day. It's like, what, 4:40 right now? Okay, well, to start with, Aluco is a kind of owl called a tawny owl. And tawny owls are found mostly all across Europe, a little bit into Western Asia, a little bit into Northern Africa. And the tawny owl is in the wild, especially as adults, is strictly nocturnal. It would be really difficult to find an active tawny owl during the daytime. Okay, but that's a tawny owl, and he is very active. He is very active right now. He's chewing on something. I don't know what he's chewing on. I'll have to go find him in a second. Okay, so why is that? Well, the first reason is because I have been hand raising him for the last month. And I did not want to adjust my sleeping pattern to feed him during the during the nighttime, so that he could sleep during the daytime and be active at nighttime. So I adjusted his eating pattern to being, I feed him early in the morning, in the mid-afternoon, and generally one more time in the late evening. So that means that his body is receiving food, he's active, he's digesting his food while I'm awake during the daytime. So as he grows up, will he change to being a nocturnal owl? Maybe. When he's a little bit older, in about 6 weeks or so, I'm going to send him outside to an aviary that I need to finish building, and he will be on his own a little bit more often. He will have his own sleeping area that will be covered. He won't be having all of us in the house with him, walking by him, and all these things. So will he change to being nocturnal? Maybe. But I am raising Aluco to be trained to be an owl ambassador and to join classes just like he's doing right now. And so I am going to work with him during the daytime. I'm not going to train him at nighttime. And so I think that's the main way to answer your question. It's because I am hand raising him and I am keeping him active during the daytime. He does sleep during the nighttime, and he sleeps during the daytime. But I'm not quite sure if he sleeps more at nighttime or more during the daytime. It is to be determined. But really good question. Does anyone have any more questions before we try to get Aluco again?
Why does Aluco vibrate his neck as if he was gurgling?
Okay, so to answer that question, I think we need to see what you're talking about. That's a very good observation. So give me a second or a few seconds to try to go get Aluco. Okay, so what the question was why was he doing something with his neck area? Yeah. Okay, so when he comes back, even if it's only for 5 seconds, I want you all to look at his throat and observe what he's doing.
Well,
okay. So what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to have him facing me for a little bit so he can't see his throat yet. I just want him to be a little bit more comfortable where he can't fly away because he'd have to fly straight into me. And then I'm going to slowly try to turn him around so you can see his throat and see if he's still doing what we just had an observation about. Okay, can you all see that? He's kind of fluttering his throat. Can you all see he's doing it really, really well right now? Okay, so what he is doing is he is trying to cool himself down. Like I've said before, it is very warm outside. It is warm inside. And so owls, like Aluco, as all birds, do not have sweat glands. So they cannot cool themselves down by sweat. Neither do they have thank you, Aluco. Neither do they have a lung structure that can pant. You know, you've seen a dog panting where they're just going, you know, the tongue is very active, but actually panting comes from their lungs, and owls are not equipped to do that. So what they do is, turn around, buddy. You get to see your throat. Okay, there we go. What he does is he opens his beak up just a little bit, and then he flutters his what's called a gular pouch, G-U-L-A-R. He flutters it. He vibrates it, as you mentioned. That's what he's doing. And what that does is it causes warm air to be produced right where his throat is, which is a very wet area. There's a lot of saliva and a lot of wetness. And so when he causes warm air to be produced right over the wet area. And then when he breathes out, what it does is it sends out warm air that he produced from his throat. And it is a very, very effective and efficient way to cool down. It's more effective than sweating, and it's more efficient than lung panting. So Aluco is a typical bird, but owls are more equipped with this, and it's more visible because if you remember, they have a longer neck, they have more neck bones, and so it's much easier for us to see what is called, get ready for this, it's called gular fluttering, G-U-L-A-R, fluttering. That's where they flutter their throat pouch in order to cool themselves down. It's a really good observation and really good question. Okay, any more questions about anything we've talked about so far or any observations you've made about Aluco before we go on? Okay, so what we're going to look at next is going to be a bit trickier because I feel like the second that I raise my hand, oh, he's going to do it. Oh, he did it. Okay, that was it. Okay, what I was going to show you was going to be his feet. So the next time I go and get him and bring him back, what I want you all to focus on for however many seconds he cooperates with us, I want you to focus on his feet, specifically at the orientation of his toes. So come wait with me while I go fetch him. And when I come back, I'm going to put him right here. I'll try to focus a little bit on his feet, and then I want you to observe what his feet is like. Okay, come on, buddy. Okay, I am definitely going to get my exercise and my ups and downs with Aluco today. Okay, so I've got my glove covering it, but if you can see, I'm going to bring him closer to the screen. Okay, how many toes do you see pointing forward? And you don't have to unmute yourself. You can just take a look that he's got 2 toes pointing forward. And owls are very typical in the number of toes that they have. Like most birds, they have 4 toes. And so I'm trying to get you a good angle, but right here you can see 1. Oh, sorry, buddy. Okay. He has 2 pointing backwards. Okay, so owls have feet shaped like an X, but very interestingly, oh, there you go. We got a really good view right there of his 2 pointing forward. But very interestingly, with owl feet, their toes, is when they fly, they can rotate their 3rd toe, which is pointing backwards. It would be not the one on this side, it'd be the one on the inside. They can rotate it around, so they actually have 3 pointing. Oh, there we go. So you probably didn't see it, but when he flies, 3 toes begin to point forward with 1 toe pointing backward. So owls have the ability to swivel that toe back and forth, and this is very special for owls. Owls are one of the few birds that have the ability to swivel their toes like that. And there's a lot of reasons for why they do it. So if you remember, they are birds of prey. They eat meat, and they need to catch their meat. So the main way that they do that is with their strong feet that not only have the sharp claws, but they just have a lot of grip power in those feet. So when they grab onto something, they really grab onto it and they don't let it go. And so that's very important that they have those strong feet. And it's important that they're able to swivel that 3rd toe, because when they carry something off, they kind of need that 3rd toe to be on the front portion so that when they grab something, they get better grip of that thing with 3 toes grabbing one side and basically like a thumb underneath to grab it on the inside. That's very important for them. But owls are very associated with trees and forests and perching. And so it's a much more strategic way to perch, and it's a more balanced way to perch for an owl, which has a relatively large body. If they have 2 toes on the branch in the front and then 2 toes on the branch in the back, so that they grab the branch evenly, and it allows them to be able to stabilize themselves a lot better because they have a much heavier body than the average perching bird. So their toes are very unique and very specially equipped for them to catch their food and perch using different arrangements of their toes. Okay, so I'm gonna bring him back and try to talk one more time about his feet before he flies off. Okay, buddy, coming back. Okay. So the good thing about Aluco is that it's really easy to catch him. He is very compliant with the glove, but you see he keeps flying off. And that is because I have nothing to hold onto him with. I can't hold his body and just restrain him like that. I shouldn't grab his feet. You know, I shouldn't grab his legs with my hand because they're not super strong and he could break them. So what I actually need to do is get him, I'm just gonna set him down real quick. I'm gonna step off, there we go. What I need to do is I need to get him equipped with some equipment that would help me to hold on to him better. So what I've got here is I've got something called an anklet. And this anklet eventually is going to go around his ankle area as a ring. And then I will, actually, I'm going to do this right in front of you. These right here have these brass eyelets, these brass rings, that when I put them into each other, they form a clasp. And into these anklets, I am going to put something called a jess, J-E-S-S. And the jess has a knot at the top called a grommet. Aluco is very interested in this. This is going to be his future life. And then what I would do is I would insert this jess into the anklet eye, just like this. And then this jess has a slit in it, it has like a line right there at the bottom, so that I could attach something else. And in this case, I would normally attach a piece of metal. I don't have the piece of metal yet. I'm ordering it still, and it hasn't arrived. But basically, I would attach a piece of metal, and then eventually I would attach this lead that has a button at the end. And so then when I put the two of them together, then if he flutters off, then I have something holding on to him that's padded, it's protected, and it won't break his ankles. And this is what people who do the sport of falconry would use in order to hold on to their bird of prey. And so one day I will put these onto Aluco, and then I will probably tie his lead either to a ring right here, or I also have a ring on my glove. This is a falconry glove for birds of prey. I could also tie that his lead to this glove so that if he flies off, he can't go further than the distance of his lead away from me. But it still allows him to fly, but it also allows him to not injure his feet. And these are ready to go. Aluco is big enough for them to go on. I've just held on to putting them, held off, I should say, to putting them on because it's been so hot right now in the United Kingdom that I felt like this is going to be stressful for me to put them on for him initially. It's going to be a new sensation for him. He may not like it. So I didn't want to put these on at the same time while it's so incredibly hot in the United Kingdom so we can reduce the stress on him. But I will be putting these on probably next week if the temperatures go down. And then I won't have to practice going back and forth, catch the owl, bring the owl, catch the owl, bring the owl back. So that's hopefully where we're heading with that. Okay, and before I go on, I do have a raised hand. So if you'd like to go ahead and ask the question, who's raised their hand? I think it's coming from, I think we have two hands raised up. We have one coming from Norwich and one coming from Cambridge. One of you just go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. We still have a question? If not, I will carry on. And then what I'm going to do, if you have a question, please come back with it. But what I'm going to do now, I'm going to put my glove on. I'm going to do my best to let you see Aluco's wings. Now, I know you might have seen them as they've gone flying off this way, but I'm going to try, do my very best to hold Aluco. And all I'm going to do is I'm just going to rotate my wrist a little bit to make him a little bit imbalanced so that you can see his wings. There we go. Okay, now I know he's flapping them. He's not holding them out for you, but you can definitely see his wings are really, really long. Actually, once again, we talked about proportions, and that's just the relative size of one thing to the other thing. The proportion of his wings to the size of his body is really long. He has really, really long wings. Oh, thank you. Because he needs to fly, of course. Now, I don't know if you could tell. Okay. This is through a computer screen. It's through your computer screen, through my audio to your audio. Raise your hand, or thumbs up or raise your hand if you've heard before that owls are silent flyers, that when they fly very silently. Okay, almost everyone is giving me thumbs up and hands up. So this is a very well-known fact. But let me ask you another question. When he flapped off, did you hear anything? Did anyone hear the wing beat? Now, oh, okay, I certainly did. I didn't know if you could hear this thing. So you heard it too. So a lot of you heard, not everyone heard it, but some of you heard it. I certainly heard his wing beats as he flapped away. So what does this matter about owls being silent flyers? Well, we'll start off with the fact that Aluco is not full grown. He still has a lot of fluff. And even though he is fully able to fly, he still has a lot of fluff and baby features that are not quite, he hasn't gotten rid of them yet. And so he is not yet a silent flyer, but he will be a silent flyer. And the way that he becomes a silent flyer is because on his wings, which he's over there, so I'm not going to grab him just yet, but on his wings, he basically, if you point out your fingers, he has his flight feathers, his large primary flight feathers that are the biggest feathers you see when he's spreading out his wings. And all of his flight feathers, on the one edge of the wing feather, they have these little, they're called serrations. It kind of looks like a comb, just these little tiny grooves in each feather. And so what happens is as he flaps through the wind, through the air, those little serrations, those little grooves on his feather, basically they kind of break up the wind that is being produced as he flaps. They catch the wind, and then it pushes the wind. Instead of pushing the wind up, it pushes the wind over their wing feathers. And the tops of their wing feathers have a special coating that no other birds really have. And so it makes it a very soft, like a velvety texture. And so when the wind goes up and then this way, it lands on these velvety soft feathers. And then those velvety soft feathers essentially capture the sound so that the sound doesn't go up over their wing like most birds do. If you've ever heard a pigeon flap or a duck take off the water, the wing beats are incredibly noisy, incredibly loud. But when an owl does the exact same thing, the wind and the air and the turbulence and the sound that would be produced basically glides over those serrations. And then instead of going up where the sound would be produced, it glides over those velvety feathers. And then at the end of these flight feathers, they have a little bit of fluff. And then that little bit of fluff kind of captures the rest of the sound that could be produced, so that owls essentially, especially the forest hunting owls, they can essentially flap through the air and no sound is produced, which is extremely important because they have to catch their food. If their prey that they eat hears them, the food's going to run away and the owl will go hungry. And so owls have to be very stealthy. So not only do they hunt at nighttime, but they also have a way to be very silent when they fly. And going back to those very, very, very large eyeballs that are not so great for seeing things close up, not right here, those eyes are especially equipped in order to see with very little light. Now, if you put an owl in a room with absolutely no light, it was pitch black, the owl cannot see. The owls cannot see purely in the dark. But if they just have a tiny bit of light, a little bit of moonlight, a little bit of starlight, a little bit of light from somewhere, owls with their ginormous eyes are able to see incredibly well in the dark. So they are especially equipped for catching their food in the night in a silent way so they're not heard. They can see it and also they can hear it. And so we're going to conclude very quickly. We're going to try one more time to catch Aluco, bring him back here. And this time, I want you to look around his eyes right here. I'm going to do my best. So I want you to look at his eyes. I want you to look at the arrangement of feathers around his eyes. So give me a few seconds. I'll be back. We may only have a few seconds with Aluco to see his eyes, but look at the feathers around his eyes. Okay. Okay, and here I'm back again. Okay, so I'm going to turn him towards you. So there we go. What I want you to be seeing, oh, his beautiful wings, of course. I want you to be looking at his eyes that not only are they facing forward, which is a very unusual, I'm going to put my hand right here so he doesn't try to fly off right away. His eyes facing forward is a very unusual feature for birds. Most birds have eyes on the sides of their head. His are facing forward, and if you look at it, he's still developing. He's not full grown. No, buddy, stay a few seconds longer, around his eyes, his developing feathers are all shaped in a circle so that, stay with us, buddy. Oh, he's looking the other way. Oh, thank you for yawning. I think he might be a little bit bored right now. His feathers are all shaped in a circle going around his eyeballs. And there he goes. Okay, to be honest with you, he was a little bit quieter that time when he took off. But basically what I'm talking about is around his eyes is he has all of his feathers pointing in directions toward his eyeballs. And what this does, it functions basically as his ears. Because you've noticed he doesn't have any external ears. And our ears, and most mammal ears, are shaped in such a way that they funnel sound inside. And so these kind of structures on the outside, they're designed so that they funnel the sound into our ears and it goes into our ear organs. Owls don't have external ears, and birds don't have external ears. But what happens with an owl is the shape of their feathers, those feathers all pointing one way. They're called facial discs that basically acts like a ear. It's a circle that the sound goes straight into them, and it kind of funnels into one location, and their ear openings are located just like about right here. And so those feathers kind of funnel the sound right into their ears. And owls like Aluco have ears that are not symmetrical. They're not at the same level. They'll have one ear right here, and the other ear will be up here. And what happens is this allows the owls to hear everything over here a little bit differently than everything over here. So they have an incredible ability to hear very, very small sounds. And that's because their facial discs and their asymmetrical ears are just specially equipped in order to capture every little bit of sound. So sound, their amazing eyesight, their silent hunting abilities give owls the ability to be incredible hunters, even at night, even in the forest where Aluco would normally be found. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead, try to bring him here one more time and give you a chance at this point to ask questions. So if you have a question, as soon as I sit down, unmute yourself and I'll be right back to answer your question. Okay. See if we can keep Aluco here for as long as possible to join us in answering the last questions. Okay, if you've got a question, go ahead, unmute yourself and ask away. Go ahead.
What would the toe structure be when he caught his prey and is about to go out, like in the air?
Fantastic question. So what would his toe structure be? Generally speaking, he's going to catch his food like this initially. And then once he's caught it, because it's actually going to be more grip if he does 2 and 2. But then when he's ready to fly off with it, he may rotate his third toe in order to be able to fly off with it. But of course, in the moment of catching an animal and the animal's going to struggle, of course, lots of different things can happen with their toes. But generally speaking, when he pounces on it, he's going to have it in the 2 and 2 structure. And then when he flies off with it, specifically when he flies off with it, he's going to grab his third toe and grab it with a little bit more grip and then take it away where he's going to eat it. Really good question. Okay, I think we've got another question coming from, is it from London? Let's see, and then one from Havering Auntie Bauer. Go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay, we'll come back to you. Oh, there we go. Bye-bye, Aluco. Do we have a question from the Heelys? Do you have a question? Go ahead, unmute yourself and ask your question.
How big can the full owl grow?
Okay, so Aluco, he's about almost 7 weeks old. He is, I would say, about 2/3 grown. So if he's this big right now, I think he's going to get to be about this big when he's full grown. He is not a particularly large owl. Some of the owls, like the great horned owl, if you're from North America, or the snowy owl, these are very large owls. He is a small to medium-sized owl. So he's going to be about this big when he's fully grown. But impressively, if he's this big, his wingspan is going to be like this big. His wings are just really, really long in proportion to the size of his body. So he's, I think, about 2/3 there. Actually, if you've got time, I just looked at my clock. I'm sorry. It has been over an hour. So thank you all for bearing with me for over an hour. If you need to get going, absolutely no problem. You can just drop off. But if you have a few more minutes and would like to see, would anyone like to weigh Aluco and find out how much Aluco weighs? Okay, let's see. I got at least a few thumbs up. So give me a moment. I'm just going to move my owl pellets. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm just dumping my owl pellets. Okay. So what I'm going to do is fetch Aluco, but I actually have somewhere around, oh, right over here. I have our trusty kitchen scale, which is set to different measurements. And I hope it's already preset to grams. It's set to grams. So I'm going to put it down here. And then I'm going to switch my camera to that other mobile camera. Okay. Okay, so there we go. There's our kitchen scale. Okay. So, and there we go. I don't know if you can see the actual reading. Let me change the orientation. So there we go. It's a little bit dark. Dark for me. Okay. Well, we'll forget about that, about what if you can read it or not. If you can read it, that's great. Okay, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear it. There we go, to 0. I'm going to place this plate on top of it, and then it says the plate weighs 50 grams. I'm going to tare that, which T-A-R-E, which sets it back to 0. And then I'm going to go ahead and fetch Aluco, put him on there, and we can see what his reading is for his weight. Okay, so here he is. This might be our last visual of him before I put him on plate. Here we go, buddy. Okay, I'm going to put this on the plate. Okay. Okay, so I thought he was going to do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the plate off. I'm going to put him on my hand and then put him on the plate. And with Owl on plate, I will set him down. And I don't know if you can read that. His reading right now is 331 grams. So this buddy right here is 331 grams. And so I believe, we think, we're fairly certain, based on his size, that Aluco is a male. We actually are not 100% sure, but one of the best ways to identify them would be to understand the weight, because male owls are generally about 25% to 33% smaller than a female owl. And so right now his weight is 330, but when he's full grown, a tawny owl can range from about 420 grams all the way up to 800 grams. And most of the ones that are over 700 grams are almost 100% females. And the ones that are closer to 400, 500 grams are 95% of the time going to be males. So right now he is 330 grams. And so we just have to see in about 6 weeks of how much he weighs. If he's weighing closer to 400, 500, maybe 550, 600, we would have more certainty he's a male. If he's ranging on the bigger side, it actually might be that he's a female. But the reason why we've assumed he's a male is because the owners who had him before, when he was just a little chick, they had 3 chicks in the hatch, and 2 of them were significantly larger than the one. And they were experienced owl breeders who observed that the facial features were much larger on the other 2, which in their experience told them it was a male. But the jury is still out. The way we can for sure know that he's a male or a female would be actually to get a blood sample and send it off to a lab in order for them to test the DNA. This is the standard way. I'm not sure we're ever going to get to that. I'm going to depend on weight. And so if you keep joining me for classes, maybe you can join me in deciding this is a smaller tawny owl by weight. This is very likely to be a male. Okay. Any other questions before we say farewell? We'll have Owl. I had Owl on a plate, but then he flew off. He was very active. Okay. One more question. 2 more questions. Go ahead, Carbunks.
Do owls blink?
Do owls
Blink.
Do owls blink?
They do.
That is a fantastic question. The answer is yes. And what's really interesting about owl blinking is owls actually have 3 sets of eyelids. They have eyelids that go down. They have eyelids that specifically go up. And they also have a 3rd eyelid that closes at a diagonal. And the 3rd eyelid is, you can see through it a little bit, which allows birds that dive into the water or fly straight into high winds at high speeds. It allows them to close their eye, but still see through it. So they have 3 sets of eyelids. And yes, Aluco does blink. But his lower eyelid is only used for sleeping. His upper eyelid is mainly used to just kind of moisturize his eye like we would use our eyelid for. And then his 3rd eyelid is to protect it from different activities that he may be in. Really good question. Okay, how about we go over to New Hampshire for another question? We'll come right. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. We had another question from the same household. Go ahead.
How old do owls need to be to fly?
So Aluco flew when he was about 4.5 weeks old. And so it depends on the species of owl. If it's a bigger owl species, it will take them a few more weeks to fly. If they're very small owls, and Aluco is on the smaller size for species, it will take them just a few weeks to fly.
Okay.
Excellent. Okay, let's move over to New Hampshire for your question. You want to unmute yourself and ask away. Okay, if you're able to figure that out. If not, we'll come back to you when you figure out. Oh, there, go ahead. Go ahead.
Mr. O, we were late. Mom's time was wrong by quite a few minutes. So can you send us the recording?
We will definitely do that. Actually, thank you for mentioning that. So if any of you missed the class or part of the class, had to leave early, or would just like to view it again, or if you have a friend who would like to view it, we will post all of these classes on YouTube. And so I will send that out to remind you all when we post it, definitely. Okay, why don't we go over, let's see, who do we have? Why don't we go over to Norwich for a question? Mute yourself and ask your question. Go ahead.
Will he ever hunt if he saw a mouse or something?
That's an excellent question. And I don't know the answer to that fully. We just have to see what happens over time. My experience tells me he is not going to ever be a very good hunter unless I train him how to hunt, because he is so used to me bringing food straight to his mouth. He's so sure that I'm going to provide food to the point where he squawks when he's hungry and I haven't fed him yet. And so because of that, he doesn't have the best instincts to know if I'm hungry, I go out and fly. But he's too young now. He wouldn't be hunting now anyway on his own. It wouldn't be until he's about 3 or 4 months old that he would have to start hunting when his parents just stopped feeding him. But I'm not sure if a mouse was in his area or if he saw, I'm not sure he would know what to do about it. He would need to have a little training and development because he is very used to the fact I bring food to him. So keep coming back, Caleb, and ask that question multiple times, and we'll figure out if we get an answer. Will he ever do it on his own or not? Okay, I think, do we have another question out there? That might be it for questions. If you have a question, raise your hand, but otherwise, thank you very much for joining this very lengthy session. And before I sign off, we have another question coming from New Hampshire. You want to unmute yourself and ask me your question. Go ahead.
How big is Aluco's brain?
How big is Aluco's brain? I never even mentioned this. That's a great question. Well, if you remember, okay, think about, this is an owl head right here. You remember, you overlay these grapefruits on it. Okay, grapefruits. There's not a whole lot of room for brain left over. Most of his brain, inside of his head is filled with eyeball, or eye tubes, we might call them. So I would say if these are his 2 eyeballs, let's just pretend these are 2 eyeballs, his brain is going to be about the size of this goose egg, which is just remarkable that the brain is that small. His brain is not very large in proportion to his eyeballs or even the rest of his head. The answer is, the shortest way to answer your question is his brain is quite small. It's a really good question. I know I saw some sad faces going up, but it is the truth. Owls have very small brains, but they have great senses for sight and also for hearing and for flying and all those things that they need to do to survive. Okay, well, if you do have any more questions, go ahead. Your parents or your teachers know they can email me. They can respond to the email that they got originally to get to this class. But thank you very much for joining us for this very lengthy class. I do look forward to seeing you in the future. And just to let you all know, I don't have any more classes on the calendar yet, but just give me a few more days and I will launch a whole series of classes for the duration of the summer before we start with the autumn term. So there will be more classes coming, just be patient. And I can promise you they're almost definitely going to be on Thursday or Friday. That is most of the time when I'm free. Most of the time it's going to be about somewhere between 4 to 6 o'clock in the UK, if you're in the UK time, which is about, like, if you're on the East Coast in North America, it's going to be 11 or 12 o'clock, something like that. So that's the time that I typically teach classes, and I do hope to have classes in the future. So at this point, we can go ahead and all turn on our cameras if you would like, unmute yourself, and we can all say hello, goodbye, and see you next time.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us today.
Thank you.
Bye. Hope to see you all very, very soon. Hopefully next week.
Bye. Thank you.
Goodbye.